Welcome to Stab the Dragon Productions. It's Monday, July 15th, 2024. It's 101 degrees in Fort Worth, Texas. First Chronicles 12:32 says that the men of Issachar had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do. The church always needs men of understanding. The church needs to know what we ought to do in any cultural situation. The men of Issachar were coming, along with all the other tribes, to anoint David as king after the civil war was over. King Saul was dead. And so it was a difficult time. Any time after a civil war, it's a horrible time. And so we are a divided nation right now. Things are bad. I think they're likely to get worse. And so the church needs to know what to do, what to think, how to act. On Saturday, July 13th, 2024, President Donald J. Trump was shot at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. One bullet pierced his right ear, wounding him, but in the volley of fire, one of the attendees was killed. 3 others were wounded, 2 of them seriously. The Secret Service counter sniper team engaged the perpetrator and killed him. Trump walked off the stage, raising his fist, his face bloody from his wound, and yelled "Fight" as his supporters began to chant, "USA, USA." Very dramatic scene. There have been 7 United States presidents shot over the years. 7. 6 of those 7 were Republicans, 1 Democrat. President Lincoln, President Garfield, McKinley, they were all killed. Theodore Roosevelt, shot, but he continued on with his speech. John F. Kennedy, the only Democrat in the list, killed. Ronald Reagan, shot, hospitalized, but came back strong. And now, Donald J. Trump. So 6 of the 7 were Republicans that have been shot. There's your clue. I don't think that is merely an historical oddity. I think there's a pattern. So how should Christian Americans process these events? What can we gain from thinking this through? First of all, I want to go over some of the things of what we know, what we think we know, and what we maybe don't know. And that's changing hour by hour. I mean, even as I started working on this production and doing more research, more information came out. Is it accurate? I'm not sure. I mean, it looks accurate, but I don't know. So first we know the gunman's name, Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Nice suburban community. His parents are still married to each other. Apparently they are both licensed counselors. He worked at a nursing home. He had just graduated from community college. He had no prior criminal record. Registered Republican, but contributed money to a leftist organization. His parents said that he was apolitical. He liked to shoot. He was a member of a local shooting range where he and his father shot together at times. He seemed like he had no friends, his parents said, and one of his classmates interviewed said that he was a loner, he was bullied often, but that he was very smart and nerdy. He won some kind of a math prize in high school. Well, on Friday, this guy purchased a box of ammo for an AR-style rifle. Could not find any mention of caliber. The AR platform comes in a wide variety of calibers. The perp had apparently an explosive device in his car and a detonator on his person, with more explosives at his home. The victim who died was 50-year-old former firefighter Corey Compriatore. I'm probably butchering that name. He was a volunteer fireman, committed Christian, married, father of 2 girls. One of his daughters wrote a very touching testimony about her dad and talked about his Christian faith and how he loved them. And testimonies of the shooting scene say that he, basically wrapped himself around his wife and daughter to protect them. And then he got shot. 2 other people were critically wounded. David Dutch, age 57, of New Kensington, Pennsylvania, and James Copenhaver, 74, of Moon Township. Texas Congressman Dr. Ronnie Jackson, former medical or physician for Obama and Bush, his nephew was also grazed by a bullet. So those are the victims. The perp was apparently spotted by police before the rally, and they alerted on him up to 30 minutes before, but lost sight of him, lost track of him. But then, as Trump was beginning his speech, the perp placed his ladder on the side of the building and climbed up on the roof, where he was spotted by many people in the area who saw him and his rifle. And a drone was in the area. I've seen drone footage. Whose drone was that? Was it a Secret Service drone? Private drone? If it's a private drone, well, there's a security problem. Secret Service drone, well, how did it see this guy on the roof and not report that to somebody? I don't know. But I know there's drone footage. I've seen it. But the people, the crowd around there, they attempted to alert the police and the Secret Service. Hey, there's a guy on the roof. They saw that he had a rifle. You know, they're freaking out. If you watch that video, there's people screaming and pointing and waving and running, going into a panic. I've seen multiple reports that one police officer is said to have actually climbed the ladder that Crooks placed there. He bought it the day before, and that he climbed up on the roof, and Crooks pointed his rifle at the cop, so the cop went back down the ladder. Well, man, is this like a Uvalde scene all over again? About 6 minutes into the speech, the perp began firing. Getting off, again, I can't get a firm number of shots fired, and that should be a fairly easy thing. There should be shell casings there on the roof. But it seemed like 5 to 6 shots. I mean, initially when I heard the video, I heard about 8 shots, but then I realized that some of those are the return fire by the police or Secret Service. They were wearing stuff marked police. Was that sniper team Secret Service, or was it local police? I'm not sure. So a total of probably 7 or 8 shots were fired, but the perp probably just got off 5 or 6. And then he was killed. So questions about this. The biggest questions revolve around why the security plan failed to secure the high ground in the area. This is not an urban environment. There's not that many buildings around. And the high ground of this building where the perp was not secured. How does that even happen? I heard Dan Bongino today on his program, ex-Secret Service, right? He knows what he's talking about. He said that an inside source told him that the counter sniper fire was so slow in responding because they couldn't get a good sight picture on the guy because of the slope of the roof. In other words, the perp had the higher ground. How does that even happen? How do you not, old infantryman here, old Army, how do you not secure the high ground first? I do not understand that. The roof that the gunman was on was about 150 yards from Trump. Incredibly close for this type of failure. That is a close shot for a rifle. It was not a crowded urban environment, so I mean, it was a very clear day. I mean, just there was no. This is not a guy wearing a hunting suit, a ghillie suit in the woods, hiding. He wasn't shooting from the inside behind a window. He was on the roof, very clearly seen by lots of people, by the drone. Okay, so some reports are now coming out that the security team was a mix of of Secret Service, Homeland Security, local police, and possibly other agencies. Dan Bongino brought that out. And some of the news stories that I've read have mentioned that the Secret Service had the close-in perimeter. You know, you have the agents in suits around Trump, and they're responsible for the close-in stuff. You had the sniper team that was visible, counter sniper team that was visible. They're there for the far-ranging stuff out to about 1,000 meters. But where the perp was at that 150-meter mark, that was supposedly designated for local police to patrol and secure. And just tonight, I read another story. I don't know if this is confirmed or not, that inside the building where the perp was on the roof was another counter sniper team. How and why you place a counter sniper team on the first floor of a building and not the roof, I don't understand. You've got to occupy the high ground. I really don't get this. So there's all kinds of information coming out about the actions of police. That the people, the crowd that was there, I've seen several of them interviewed, ran to police, pointed out the guy. You could clearly see him. No action was taken. Then when you look at the Secret Service team that surrounds Trump after he's been shot, and they escort him to the vehicle, when you look at that team, it has no fewer than 3 women. Smaller women. Trump's a big dude. He's 6'2", 250, 240, somewhere in there. I mean, he's over 6 foot. And these women, are coming up to his shoulders. That's probably not the best plan to protect your principal. Okay? I'm just saying. And so you have to ask some hard questions about DEI and the Secret Service. That's a high percentage of women on the team protecting a big guy. So lots of questions about the security plan here. So those are kind of the facts and some of the questions about the facts, what we know, what we think we know. How should a Christian patriot respond to this or think about it? First of all, obviously pray for Trump and his family. Pray for Vice President choice J.D. Vance and his family. The dangers are real. This is a dangerous time in our country, and the sides are very stark in their differences, and the hatred is real. And so this is going to be a very messy and dangerous election season. But I think we should also rejoice and see the grace and the sovereignty of God in this. Trump turned his head to look at his chart right when the bullet came by. And that movement of his head placed the bullet impact 1/4 of an inch out, and it nicked his ear, penetrated top of his ear. If he hadn't have moved his head at that point, it would have killed him. Okay, it would have ripped his face off. So is that luck, or is that God's grace and providence? I'm going to boldly say that that's God's providence, that it's God's grace that preserved Trump. So we can rejoice over that. Mistakes to avoid. Some have already quickly said, well, this was a government hit job. The Dems paid for this guy, and so, he did it. Sadly, these days, that kind of an assumption is actually plausible, all too plausible. Just look at the recent history of the last 7 years. The government sponsored the Russia plan. The government lied about the Hunter Biden laptop. The Secret Service failed to identify who owned the cocaine they found in a secure place in the White House. Yeah, we see these decisions. FBI raided Mar-a-Lago with guns out. Okay, it's plausible now, I hate to say it, to think that maybe this was a government hit. But there's no proof of that yet. Okay. On the other side, some have said, oh, this was all fake, and this was a Trump setup because they knew it would help his campaign. Really? That's ridiculous on its face. There was a real gunman. He fired real bullets. Trump was really hit. Somebody else was killed. Others were seriously wounded. This was not fake. This is not a setup by the Trump team. No. This is at the very least a crazy guy with a gun. But there's another serious mistake to avoid that's way more subtle, right? This is the moral equivalency argument that says, all right, both sides have been using violent rhetoric, so both sides need to calm down and sit down in their corners and tone down the language. I'm going to say yes, both sides have used violent rhetoric, but I would say the left clearly uses the violent, angry rhetoric a lot more. Think of all the times the left has called Trump and MAGA as racist, bigots, Hitler, Nazis, all of which are ridiculous and intentionally inflammatory. I would say as a guess that the left uses violent rhetoric at least 75% to our 25%. And so when we call out the left as being Marxist, that's actually an accurate descriptor. You can trace the history of their ideas to the Frankfurt School that came over from Germany and Austria in the 1920s to Columbia University, and the Frankfurt School has their roots in Marxism, and so you philosophically you can trace the leftist ideas of today to Marxism. Calling them Marxist is historically accurate. That's different from calling Trump and MAGA Hitler or Nazis. That there's no connection there whatsoever. So the use of violent rhetoric or of highly descriptive words, it's not equal, not in the least. And so to say, okay, both sides need to sit down and calm down, that's moral equivalency, and it's inaccurate, and we should avoid that. We need to study the issues, the history, the news, and know how to discuss these issues in a serious way. And speaking truth to evil is what we should be doing. And so if there's a side that is evil, we need to be saying that. Along the way, when our side messes up, we need to own it, right? But I'm just saying moral equivalency, no, that's a mistake. It's sinful. Silence also is a sinful option, just as dangerous as speaking ignorantly or foolishly. If we sit down and shut up and don't speak truth to evil, we're complicit. We should also allow time for the investigation to give us the details. It's going to include a lot of dribbling out of some details because you've got the FBI and Secret Service, you've got local police, all conducting investigations into what happened and who did what. And then you've got the news media that's conducting their own research, interviewing people. Some of the facts that dribble out may be wrong. Some will be right. Some will be conflicting. It's going to take time. But we also must be healthily skeptical. Now, do I trust the FBI or the Secret Service? No. Do I trust the media? No. None of these people are objective. And so you're going to have to get a variety of sources and read through it and figure it out. If you only listen and read to one or two sources, you're probably not getting the whole story. So pray for the truth to come out. Understand also that not all Christians are going to agree. Be gracious. But I will say this. Some believers close to me have been consistently wrong on several cultural, political issues over the last 10 years or so. And that's a cautionary note. If you get the gospel right and you get Bible doctrine right, but you're consistently wrong on cultural and political stuff, something's not right there. So where's all this heading? First of all, praise God that Trump was preserved at this time. This is not to say that he's going to make it till Election Day. And it's also not saying I think Trump is our nation's savior. He may be one good piece of the puzzle for stopping the decline of America, but he's not our savior. This country has already gone over the precipice. I'm hoping and praying we can deploy some kind of a parachute for a less than rough landing. Trump is part of the process of stopping the mess. But the mess is so big, really the only thing that can save us is a Christ-centered, Bible-based, Spirit-filled, heaven-sent revival. Politics is downstream of culture. Culture is downstream of the religious faith of a people. So the core problem of America is that we are far from God and we are worshiping a false God right now. So keep in mind, this all is not over. I think there's going to be another attempt on Trump as we get closer to the election. And then if Trump were to actually win and overcome all the cheating that has happened, I think the devil will unleash hell on the streets of America. Think of the George Floyd riots of 2020, only 10 times worse. I think our society is going to be tested in ways not seen since 1861. So, politics is important. You have to get out there and vote. You have to campaign. You have to speak your mind. And it sickens me that so many Christians I know are never Trumpers. In this election, it's either Trump or Biden. To sit this one out would be wrong. For a Christian to sit it out is a half a vote for Biden. As the investigation unfolds, what it looks like right now is it's going to be one of two things. Either we have extreme gross negligence by law enforcement and the Secret Service, or we have a dark, evil, willful plot. To me, I give weight to the negligence for now. This shooting should not have happened. It was preventable. However, if at the end of the investigation nobody is fired, the scale will be moved in the other direction. This is Stab the Dragon, in hoc signo vinces, out here.